if it's not his firm, then other firms that followed his path are now doing work for the Trump administration. Media companies have done settlements with Trump for millions of dollars. Things that Trump conveys in social media posts were basically payouts as he smears the journalists involved. President Obama, in his comments, seems to be calling out that behavior from the people with the most, the people for whom democracy and capitalism have given the most. He seems to have used some of his rare public comments to call them out, but he also seems to be leaning very publicly, maybe even more publicly, into this fight to save democracy, this redistricting effort. What do you see, and how do you analyze the choices he's making right now?
I see someone who is, as you say, very cautious about the way he uses his voice and his platforms. He loves this country. He served this country. He understands perhaps more than many of us what's at stake because he sat in that office, and he understands how that power can be used and what happens when it is abused. What you're seeing right now is someone who is absolutely leaning in a little bit more than he might otherwise want to, then he might otherwise be more careful about how he uses his voice right now. But in his quiet way, he is sounding a very strong alarm. And it's interesting that he's speaking not just broadly to the American people, but he's talking to people who actually have the power to stand up to this president and asking them to dig deep and figure out how they can stop bending the knee, how they can figure out how to be a beacon in a moment when we need to see that. And he's doing it very carefully. But at the same time, if you listen and if you compare how he's used his voice in the past, this is a 5-alarm fire. He's not yelling. That is not his style. That has never been his style. But I think when we look back at this moment, we will see that this is someone who is using his voice to sound the alarm. What is a little bit disappointing is he's not the only living president. And I keep wondering why we're not hearing from other presidents. Nicole, I wonder if you're thinking about that also. Everyone is always asking Barack Obama to step in and spread some fairy dust around. Where's Bill Clinton? Where's George Bush? It would be nice if we saw a united front of our former presidents speaking out to save democracy in this moment.
I mean, we would have to go on for 4 more hours for me to share all that I think about that statement. Of course, I agree with you. And my information suggests that they see this moment for democracy in very much the same way. So why they don't speak out, they'll have to answer that for themselves. They'll have to answer that for history at this point. Mark Elias, I sometimes feel like you are a one-man